This episode may contain discussion of sensitive topics, including violence, abuse, and other mature themes. Listener discretion is advised. Bayou and Bullshit is Louisiana history, served with sass, flavor, and my own spin on the truth. I'm Shika Denise, and I'm taking you from the Bayou banks to the French Quarter streets, digging into the legends, the lies, the stories that made this state one of a kind. So grab your sweet tea, baby. We're about to stir the pot. Y'all, imagine this. It's 1984 in Baton Rouge. A kid gets kidnapped. The man responsible? A karate instructor with the audacity of a reality show villain. The father, Gary Plauché, a dad who, up to this point, was just a regular working class guy with a love for his children and a baseball cap that says, "Don't mess with me." But here's the thing. What happens next isn't some slow burning crime story. No, baby. This goes straight to live TV. One shot, one moment. One Louisiana legend born. And if you think you've seen wild, messy Louisiana style drama before, buckle the fuck up. Because today, the tea is piping hot. Yeah, I said piping hot. Because only in Louisiana could a father, a kidnapper, and a camera crew collide like this and somehow make the evening news feel like a soap opera. But first, let's sip on some sweet tea. Because you know I got to keep it real and messy. And baby, today's tea is hot too. I know it's been a minute, almost 2 weeks. But I got to let y'all in on some haps here in Louisiana. So y'all put up y'all chair. Because this tea is hotter than a decorating machine on Bourbon Street. New Orleans Mayor Latoya Cantrell, CD, is out here making headlines. And not the kind you want to frame on the wall. The feds say she and her bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy, been running more than city errands. Child. They are accused of turning taxpayer money into their own little travel fund. I'm talking about international trips. My girl was jet setting at luxury hotels. And they both was clocking hours on the city clock that looked more like date nights than police work. The receipts. The feds have over $70,000 worth of receipts. Now here's where it gets Bourbon Street messy. 15,000 WhatsApp messages. Child, that ain't no work email. That's pillow talk with a data plan. And instead of just owning it, prosecutors say they deleted it, encrypted, and hid messages like they were sneaking out the back door of a club at 4 a.m. Baby, the people in New Orleans is talking like it's carnival, baby, like it's Mardi Gras. One side say, let's see the live. Everybody know the French Quarter built on secrets anyway. The other side like, baby, no, not with my money, not with my tax money, But let's not forget, this is not just tabloid drama. She is really facing wire fraud, obstruction, and lying to a grand jury. These are real charges, like not no second line rumors. Her arraignment is set for September the 10th, and if she is convicted by Louisiana law, Tita gotta go. That's it, that's all. But until then, she's still the mayor, she is still in office, and not too much on my girl. She's innocent until proven guilty. Only in Louisiana can the most popular city's mayor get indicted and people shrug like it's Tuesday. I mean, we got crawfish boils, gator chases, and apparently mayors who can't keep their hands clean. So while Gary Plauché is making headlines in the 80s, we going to sit here in 2025, sip our tea, and shake our heads at the madness that never changes in this state. All right, y'all. Now that the tea is done, let's dive back into Baton Rouge in 1984. I'm talking big hair, questionable perms, and chaos. Legendary. All right, I'm about to set the scene for y'all. Louisiana's capital city, where politics is messy, football is a religion, and folks still say, "I know your mama," like it's a background check. I don't care. I don't care if you know my mama. I don't care. Well, people do that to my children, so whatever. But y'all, back then the vibe was big. I'm talking about hairspray with Pump It Up or Aquanet. Jerry curls or perms. Because, yeah, we got Jerry curls. White people get perms. It's the same thing, y'all. It's the same thing. It smells funny. But the Jerry curls was like Soul Glow, baby. Y'all remember Coming to America. And y'all know at the cookout they was playing Frank and Beverly. Oop, 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 oop. We still do that. But also, y'all know everybody AC had that Tupperware she ain't never want to share. She ain't never want to get nobody none of her little containers. My mama still won't give out her containers, y'all, child. It's a mess. She got a whole little set she ain't never opened. She don't want to let nobody use it. Girl. But Baton Rouge was and is still a in-between city. So it's not quite New Orleans, but it's not a small town. But baby, when something happened, everybody knew before the ink even hit the newspaper. And in the middle of this regular Baton Rouge life was Gary. Gary was a dad. He was a neighbor. He was a man just trying to raise his kids and keep his family together. His youngest son, Jody, was his pride and joy. A sweet, outgoing boy who loved sports, and he looked up to Gary. He loved his daddy. I want to insert here that the Plauché family is a white family, but this episode is not about their race or their color. It could be not. But for the most part, I won't focus so much on their race. But then, like I said, you got Gary, you got his family, he got his kids. Okay. Then here comes Jeff Doucette. Y'all, Jeff is white. So once again, this is not about race. This is actually a white on white crime. The black folk don't really make an interest in this story like talking about. Okay? But on the surface, Jeff was Jody's karate instructor. He was a man who seemed trustworthy. He was even welcome at the family food table. Y'all, but behind Jeff's smile was something so dark and wicked. I don't think the family was ready for what was about to happen. In February of 1984, Jeff Doucette would kidnap 11-year-old Jody, and he vanished. Just like that. One day, Baton Rouge was living its normal, messy life. The next day, the city was buzzing like somebody kicked the hornet's nest. The police and the FBI scrambled to bring Jody home. Y'all, Gary prayed, and he paced. He also imagined the worst. But what happened when Jody was finally found, and what Gary did in response, wouldn't just make the evening news. It would become one of the most infamous moments in Louisiana history. And baby, it all went down on live television. Now, before we get to the heavy part, let's just pause for a minute and let me kind of set the scene of what Baton Rouge was like in the 80s. Now, I was not born until 4 years after this event. So, from talking to different people, Baton Rouge is a city with layers. It's still like it isn't so different. It's kind of different, more modern, but it's not so different because you got your Capitol crowd. That's like your politicians and your lobbyists in their suits. They wheeling and dealing downtown at the they eating lunch at Hot Stuff or I forgot what they had down there back in the day that my mom and them always tell me about. But you had them. Then you had LSU students. They still still to this day they go to Tigerland and get drunk on cheap beer at school spirit. Then you got your Southern students in the North Baton Rouge cutting up, acting fool. We all having fun. But then you got your neighborhoods. So you got your country club. You got Gardier. You got Highland Road. You got your LSU Garden, the Garden District. You got the Scotlandville area, Banks and the Field. You got the Park. That's where I'm from. You got Glen Oaks, Zion City. It's a lot. You just got a lot. You got Baker. You got all of that. That is pretty much the backbone of Louisiana. Of Baton Rouge. I'm sorry. People be barbecuing in their front yard, no matter what neighborhood they stay in. Kids be playing tag in the street, maybe street balls, whatever. Till the street lights came on and everybody mama tell them, come on inside, don't make me get your daddy. Church was the other heartbeat. On Sunday morning, Baton Rouge slowed down because everybody was in somebody's sanctuary, singing in the choir, ushering, or sneaking peppermints out their grandma's purse to keep from falling asleep during the sermon. My grandma used to have strawberry candies in her purse, and they was good. But y'all, when service was out, and I asked my grandmother was a deacon in the church in '84, so um y'all, the parking lot was Facebook. Parking lot was social media, baby. That's when, because you watching everybody coming to church, then you got to catch up at the end. You can't catch up in church because somebody was late. Your friend might have came. Girl, in the parking lot, you talking about who's sick, who backsliding, who showed up with somebody new that wasn't with last week. Oh, messy. But Baton Rouge in the '80s was nosy, but a good kind of nosy. If something happened to you, your neighbor was knocking on your door. If something happened in Baton Rouge, people look 6 o'clock news. You knew it before the news was coming on. You was like, oh, this is what they was talking about, baby. People would be like, child, you heard about what happened to so and so, son? And everybody had an opinion. Everybody had a theory. I literally grew up in this chaos because as soon as I look at a news story or somebody tell me something, I got a theory about it. I could be wrong. But if I'm right, I normally say, I told you. I told you. But y'all, when word around town got out that a local boy at only 11 years old had been kidnapped by his karate teacher, Baton Rouge wasn't just listening this time. They leaned in. Every phone line was buzzing. Every front porch was a press conference. Every mama was looking at her kid thinking, Lord, please don't let that happen to mine. That's the backdrop. That's the energy. A city that talks, that prays, that gossips, and that never, ever forgets. And that is the Baton Rouge Gary Plauché was living in the day his son Jody went missing. Now, let me stop right here because Jody was not an only child. The Plauché family had 4 children. He had an older brother named Bubba. He had a younger brother named Mikey. And he had a sister named Sissy. On top of that, Gary and June were separated. So Gary and June are Jody's parents. They're all the kids' parents. They are separated at the time, and they're already kind of working towards their divorce. This just wasn't a story about a father and a son. This was about their whole family was caught in the middle. But the dad, okay, all right, I'm finna tell y'all about LINGER. I'm finna pick back up. So, like I said, it's February 1984. In the middle of Baton Rouge's everyday rhythm, 11-year-old Jody is gone. We don't know where he at. His daddy upset, his mama upset. We don't know. We just know Jody ain't around. We can't find him, and we can't find Jeff. For Gary, this was every parent's nightmare. I'm pretty sure for June too. This story focuses more on Gary because of his actions after the fact. But I'm pretty sure June was just as upset about her son being missing. But June was not in the spotlight like Gary was. Imagine tucking your child in one night, only to wake up with the police at your door telling you that he is missing. And not just missing, but taken by someone you trusted enough to invite into your home. Somebody who ate your food, laughed in your face, and acted like he cared about your children, about your family. And here's the thing. Doucette was not just close to Jody. He was coaching Bubba and Mikey too. He worked his way into the whole Plauché household. He was trusted with car rides. And before anybody knew it, he was more than the karate teacher. He was their family. This made it easier for him to take advantage of whatever situation he could. Baton Rouge police, the FBI, everybody went to work. Flyers went out, tips came in, the whole city was buzzing. People stopped each other in the grocery stores, at church, at work. Did you hear about the Plauché boy? Y'all, This event had people grabbing their kids, and people was whispering. People didn't know what to think. Days would turn into weeks. Gary sat through police briefings, fielded phone calls, he prayed and he paced. And all the while, the news kept putting his son's picture up there. This smiling 11-year-old boy, he had his whole life ahead of him. And then finally, after what may have felt like a fucking eternity, there was a break. When Jody was taken, it was not his father who received the first phone call. It was June. She answered a collect call. She heard her son's voice on the line. Imagine this. Your child kidnapped trying to reach you. I feel like June was already carrying the weight of the moment in her own way. So authorities would eventually track Jeff to California. And that's where they found him with Jody in a hotel, hidden like some twisted secret. But Jody was alive. He was traumatized, but he was alive. Now let me just tell y'all a little bit about Gary. Gary was born November the 10th, 1945 in Baton Rouge. He was a sergeant in the United States Air Force. He worked as a heavy equipment salesman. Prior to the kidnapping, the family did not know that Jeff had already started to abuse Jody for almost a year before he was kidnapped. On Valentine's Day is the actual day that Jody went missing. And Doucette would end up taking him to Anaheim, California. And this is where it gets graphic. While they were in California, Jody was sexually assaulted and molested. Yeah. Okay. Doucette ended up allowing Jody to call his mother. Now, I did see a news story that said Doucette talked to the mother and told her to bring her 3 children if she ever wanted to see Jody again. She did not. And Jody was eventually found 15 days later. The next day, Jody came home. When he came home, of course, the family learned of the abuse that Jody had went through. Gary said that he felt a sense of helplessness. He did not know how to deal with the situation. Okay, Gary. Y'all, Gary acted a fool. And all I can say is, I ain't mad. FBI told Gary, we got your son. He home. They found out. Jody, like I said, Gary was he felt helpless. As a man, my child has been violated. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this situation. I don't know what to tell my child. I can't say it's going to be okay because I don't know it's going to be okay. But now he would also have to face Jeff. The FBI arranged for Jeff to come back to Baton Rouge to face his charges, kidnapping, whatever else happened. I don't want to keep talking about that because it really touches a nerve for me. But the cameras were everywhere, y'all. Reporters, news crew, flashing lights. This was going to be a spectacle. People were waiting for this man because they needed to see the vile creature that was known as Jeff Doucette. Yes, as you can tell, I don't like the motherfucker. I don't like him. Don't care for him. You shouldn't wish death on people, but hey. That's all I can say. While the world focused on Jeff Doucette being brought to justice through the court system, Gary say no. Gary had another kind of justice on his mind. And baby, y'all, what happened next? It wasn't in any courtroom. It happened in an airport. It was on live TV for everyone to see. March 16th, 1984. Baton Rouge Metro Airport. The FBI is flying Jeff Doucette from California to face justice. The news cameras are already there. Reporters, photographers, sound crews. They all want the shot. This isn't just another case. This is the story everybody's been whispering about for weeks. Jeff is walked off the plane in handcuffs, flanked by deputies. He looks tired, scruffy, and small. It's the walk of shame on a national stage. And just a few feet away, hidden in plain sight, is Daddy Gary. Y'all, Gary leaned against that motherfucking payphone with that phone to his ear. I read that he was actually on the phone with his friend. I don't know if he told his friend what he was about to do. I don't know. But all I know is Gary had that baseball cap pulled low with them sunshades on. Y'all, he just looked like, if you didn't know him, which I'm not even thinking the police was paying attention to, it was him, because they literally had walked right past this man. And he just looked like a regular man just waiting on the call. He was linked against the phone. But y'all, Gary had that pistol tucked in his hand, and he had to make his decision of what he was going to do that day. The cameras is rolling. The deputies is guiding Jeff through that airport. And then, like, when I say y'all, Gary turned around and put that gun to that man's temple and pulled the trigger. Yes. One shot. And Jeff's body dropped, like, when I say he dropped. And if you go look at it on my YouTube channel, the video's there. He dropped. Y'all, officers spin in shock. The reporters gasped. The camera catch everything. Gary's face, the chaos, the disbelief. This isn't courtroom justice. This is a father making sure the man who hurt his son never hurts anybody else again. And just like that, Baton Rouge has a front row seat to one of the most shocking moments in American true crime history. The footage aired on the evening news, and then the questions start. Some people say that man's a hero. Others say that was murder. And in living rooms across Louisiana, the whole country, folks argued about one thing. Did Gary do what any parent would have done, or did he cross the line that can't be justified? After the gunshot rang out at Baton Rouge Metro Airport, Gary was immediately arrested. The same cameras that caught him pulling the trigger now caught him being wrestled to the ground by deputies. And baby, those images were spread fast. Jeff was dead. He was gone. Y'all, he had kidnapped that baby, abused him, violated him, and he would never stand trial. For some people, they felt like justice was served. For others, it felt like the law had been snatched right out of the courtroom and carried out at the airport. Now, here's the twist. Gary wasn't treated like your typical killer. The public sentiment leaned in his favor. People saw a father pushed to the edge, a man who snapped after watching his child go through the unthinkable. Across Baton Rouge, across Louisiana, even across the country, folks were saying the same thing. If it was my child, I might have done the same thing. When the dust settled and Gary was sitting in a jail cell, this is what June kind of pissed me off, because she walked into the jail. She looked him in his eyes and told him, you know you're going to hell, right? June, I understand. You were upset with Gary for not letting the courts handle the business, which sometimes, you can't. You got to let the courts handle their business. But June, you ain't have to kick that man while he was down. You didn't have to do it. He already killed the man. He got to live with that for the rest of his life. But Bubba, Mikey, and Sissy, they were trying to process that their dad was not their dad anymore. He was a local Louisiana celebrity. Some people was talking about him bad. Some people was talking about him good. they had to deal with that. So y'all, Gary ended up going to trial, and the prosecutors had a choice. They could throw the book at him or recognize his unique set of circumstances. Y'all, what do y'all think the court did? Y'all, they chose the latter. Gary pleaded guilty to manslaughter. Y'all, guess what his sentence was? My boy got probation and community service. No jail time. Think about that. This man shot somebody on live TV and walked away with probation. That's how much people understood his pain. I want to know if y'all feel like because he was white, is that why you think Gary got what he got? Because um I'm not trying to make this about his race, but I do know that I've seen things like this happen before in black families, and uh, they don't be believing the black people sometimes. Is it because they had the evidence that Jeff did what he did, because he actually did kidnap Jody, that they kind of took it lenient on him? Who knows? But there's a deeper part of the story. Jody, he was at the center of it. This is really Jody's story. He did not grow up cheering for what Gary did. He actually said in an interview that he was mad at his dad. He wished that his dad would have let the courts handle it. And Jeff Doucette was dead. That is true. But Jody did say that the trauma of what happened to him didn't vanish because Gary got revenge. At the age of 67, Gary did an interview and they asked him, did he regret killing Doucette? He said no, that he did not regret killing him and that he would do it again in a heartbeat. Boom. And so in August 2019, the book Why Gary Why, the Jody Plauché story, was released by Jody. Like I told y'all, he said he was mad at his daddy because he didn't see that as abuse until the world told him that it was wrong. Jody is a sexual abuse awareness activist, and he attended Louisiana State University, where he served on the executive board of Men Against Violence. And upon graduation, he worked at the Victim Service Center of Montgomery County, and as a sexual assault counselor. In 2000, so last year was 40 years after the event, and Jody appeared. He said that he was happy with his life, and now he looks at his father as the greatest dad of all time. Gary suffered a stroke in 2011, and after having a more severe stroke in 2014, he died in at the age of 68. So a year after he did the interview where he said he'll do it again. I hope Gary's in heaven because God knows I definitely would have forgiven him for killing Jeff. Jeff stole his baby. Jeff hurt his baby. I'm a black woman. If someone was to do that to my children, I would gladly sit down and do the time. I would gladly sit down and do the time. Okay. I ain't mad at him. People, you can say what you want to say, but until you've been in that position of um seeing your child go through trauma or seeing yourself go through trauma. I've been through trauma, and trust me, if if I had if I had disclosed earlier in life, maybe some things would be different. I don't know. Um, this story makes you, this story makes you ask yourself hard questions. What would I have done? Could I have waited for the courts, or would I have pulled the trigger too? Definitely would have pulled the trigger. Definitely wouldn't have waited for the courts. No. For some people, there's no right to this situation. There's no right or wrong answer because you love your child. Nobody wants to see their child hurt. Um, Nobody wants their children to go through things like this. Can you wait for the court to take justice, because sometimes the law is not quick enough. Sometimes, you know, um, it has been 41 years since Jody was kidnapped. Um, there's still the airport footage is on my YouTube channel, and people stumble across it. Debates start all over again. Gary's Gary is a symbol of righteous anger. Um, some people say his grief, he had grief and rage mixed up. Me personally, I ain't mad at him. Rest in peace, Mr. Gary. Um, that's all I can say, y'all. Like Gary did this shit. I ain't mad at Gary, y'all. I'm not, like, as a mother, as a I'm a mama of boys, so my 11-year-old, my child, period, and he was trying to get access to the other kids too. We don't even know if something happened with the other kids. We don't know, but um, that's the story of Gary Plauché. He was an ordinary Baton Rouge father who did something extraordinary and tragic, but it was definitely unforgettable. One thing is for sure, Louisiana never forgets her stories. We tell them, we pass them down. We argue about them like it happened yesterday, because that's who we are. Messy, complicated, full of love, and full of fire. This has been Bayou and Bullshit, the real Louisiana, one story at a time. I'm your host, Shika Denise, the residential historian. And baby, the Bayou's got plenty more where this came from. So stick around, subscribe, and don't miss the next sip of history and myth. Until next time, keep your tea sweet, your gumbo hot, and your stories even hotter. And if you would like to donate to Bayou and Bullshit podcast, please click the link in the description. It is called Buy Me a Coffee. And all you got to do is buy me a coffee. No amount is too small and everything is appreciated. The link will be in my bio, or you can click the link on my IG profile. Either way it go, you can get to me. All right, baby. That's going to wrap up this episode of Bayou and Bullshit. If you enjoy stirring the pot with me today, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your people. And don't forget, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube, all under Bayou and Bullshit. Until next time, keep your gumbo hot, your stories true, but your heart in Louisiana.